Good evening. Welcome to the QCIS channel. We're on this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. And tonight, I'm going to go over the players and the contracts. Now, what I mean by the players, talking about the ones who are stakeholders who are involved with the contract, like your project manager, your architect, your general contractor, your engineer. The types of contracts are your unit cost contracts and, of course, your lump sum contracts. First, share my screen and let's get into what I'm actually talking about here. So, an overview. The construction project stakeholders include owners, contractors, architects, engineers, suppliers, and regulatory bodies, all of whom directly or indirectly influence project success. Now, key contract types, I mentioned a few: lump sum, cost plus, unit price, time and materials, and guaranteed minimum price, that's GMP, define the risks, responsibilities, and payments between the parties. Now, if you've watched my videos in the past, I've already talked about this before. So it's going to be a review to some of you, and it's going to be new to some of you. But you need to understand what's involved because this deals more with contract or construction project administration. Now, the key stakeholders in construction projects, and they're divided into two categories. Your internal stakeholders, those are the ones that are directly involved, and your external stakeholders, they're the ones who have the influence. So when we deal with your internal stakeholders, we're going to talk about your client or your project owner. They're the ones that provide all the funding, they define scope, and they initiate the project. And then you go to your contractors and your general contractors. They're responsible for executing the construction work. You have your design team, includes architects and engineers who design the project. Then you have your subcontractors. Your subcontractors are ones who have your trades, and their trades are very specialized. It could be HVAC, it could be electricians, it could be plumbers. They're generally hired by the general contractors. And then you have project managers. They oversee the day-to-day operations. And then you have your external stakeholders. And in the external stakeholders, you're going to have your regulatory agencies. They're the ones who issue permits, safety checks, and they do environmental clearances. In your legal community, residents and businesses impacted by noise or traffic, and financial institutions, banks who are going to provide the loans and they're going to manage all of the investments. Now, some common construction contracts, and these are defined by the relationship and risk allocation between the parties. You have your fixed price or lump sum. It's a total fixed price. All construction work often used when scope is well defined. Cost plus covers actual cost incurred by the contractor plus a fee for overhead and profit. Unit price. If you work for a DOT, like I've worked for a number of DOTs, they use the unit price. This is when prices are broken down by unit, cubic yard of concrete or linear feet. Useful when quantities are uncertain. Then you have your GMP, your guaranteed maximum price. Basically sets a maximum price with cost savings, often shared between the owner and contractor. Then you have your T&M, time and materials, pays for hours worked and materials used, commonly used for smaller, unpredictable, and renovation projects. Then, stakeholder management and contracting. You have your risk mitigation. It's effective management that involves identifying, analyzing, and engaging stakeholders through tools like a power interest grid. Conflict resolution. Early engagement helps resolve conflicts between differing interests, such as a contractors' desire for speed versus community concerns over noise. And then documentation. Basically, it will clear contracts basically that are essential for accountability, defining responsibilities, and ensuring project success. That's an overview. And again, when we talk about different contracts, we're getting into contract, or I call it construction project administration. Now, there are two different types of administration. Both are similar, they have some overlaps. You have your construction job site administration, and then you have your construction project administration. Well, the difference between the two, yes, they overlap in a lot of areas, but the differences are night and day. When we deal with the project administration, so when you get into all of the administration work, like your RFIs, your change orders, you're actually dealing with the project and the total life cycle of the project. When you get into the job site administration, everything is in the field. So you're basically dealing with day-to-day operations, as this is where all of your inspection and your quality control are entered to. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to get into players and contracts. This is a short PowerPoint, about 24 slides. So I'm going to go through them. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section, and I'll answer them for you. So players and contracts, I basically say stakeholders in contracts. So the players, owners, pay for work, provide coordination of project. Agents are architect, construction manager, clerk of the works, resident engineer, provide site, procure, and develop to the fullest extent possible drawings for the project. Then you have your AE, your architect engineer. You design the project, utilize construction documents, on-site administration. That's where you get your inspector and your testing agencies. Then you have your contractor. You know, contractors, they deal with the labor, material, equipment, and they have the expertise to complete project, sequence work, and also subcontract out work to specialty contractors like your HVAC to do work that the GC doesn't do. Relationships between the parties. Well, the owner and architect have contract for studies, design, construction documents, admin of construction process. Of course, your architect is the agent of the owner. It's stated in AIA for B141. Now, relationships between the parties. Owner and contractor have contract for construction of facility, permits, possibly as-built documents, limited startup, and possibly operation of facility, rarely. Big area, communication. Communication generally follows hierarchies. For example, subs should not communicate directly with the architect engineer. They should ask the GC, CM, and GCCM should communicate with the AE. Here is the communications in the traditional system. Here's your matrix. You have your owner. Your owner generally is your capital projects officer, and then there's the principal in charge, who's the architect. Contractor, officer in charge. Then you have your owner's representative, project manager. Project manager who's in the contractor's realm. Architect is a project architect, sub-consultants, owner's inspector, contract administrator, superintendent, field engineer. This is what you call a matrix system. And that's the hierarchy. I'm not really in favor of the matrix system because you report to a lot of people. I like the general vertical system. Generally, it should be the owner, and then on one side you got the AE, and then on the other side you got the contractor. Okay, let's bring this back up again. All right, possible contracts. You have your lump sum, cost plus a fee, cost plus with a GMP, and a unit cost or unit price contract. Again, you have your lump sum, cost plus a fee, cost plus with a GMP, which is a guaranteed maximum price, and you have a unit price contract. Okay, so you'll understand how the system actually works. And I just mentioned it, and this is the hierarchy that I'm used to saying. It's traditional contracting. See, the owner procures AE to design project, will provide also some oversight during construction, but the general contractor or the GC has lump sum contract to complete project and hire subs as necessary. Now, here's how it all works. Just mention it to you. You have your owner. Under your owner, you have your general contractor, and you also have your AE, your architects and engineers. And under architects and engineers, this is where you would have your testing agencies and your inspectors. And under your GC, you have your subcontractor. And then under the subcontractor, they would have subcontractors. Again, here's the owner's role during the construction process. You have your capital projects officer. Then below him or her, your financial officer. Then you have your owner's project representative. And on your owner's project representative, you have your owner's inspector and your testing agency. The architect's role during the construction phase, you have your principal in charge, you have your project manager, you have your project architect, and your sub-consultants, and they go from the project architect. And also under the project architect, you have your contract administrator. And under your sub-consultant, you have your specialty coordinators. Now, the contractor's role during the construction phase, you have your OIC, which is your officer in charge, and you have estimating, scheduling, and your project manager. And your project manager goes right back to scheduling. Then you have your project engineer and your superintendent. Now, your superintendent can go right back to estimating. But then under your project engineer, you have your field engineer. Now, what's a project engineer? Generally, a project engineer is one who's below the project manager. Now, the project manager is the one in charge of the whole project, but the project engineer is close to being an assistant project manager. Project engineer is one who's actually learning the process of a construction project, but they are going to look at all your RFIs, your documents, and your submittals, to name a few of the documents. Now, when you get to the superintendent, now this is going to be, both of them are going to be the field level, but your superintendent is one that runs all the field activities. So under your superintendent, see your project engineer and your superintendent, they both have field engineers. But also under the superintendent, you have your foreman, your subcontractors, you have your craftspeople, and under your subcontractors, the subcontractors have a foreman, and there's a second tier subcontractor, and then subcontractors also have craftspeople. Okay, and here is your project's organization when you deal with your operations and your officer in charge. Now, if you look at this whole structure, your OIC also will go over and report to the operations officer. Now, under your OIC, this is when you have your estimating, your project manager, and your scheduling. And under your operations officer, you have your superintendent. Now, all of these are office positions because under your project manager, again, you have your project engineer and your field engineers. But now, again, if you look at your superintendent, as I mentioned before, superintendent has the same field engineers, the foreman, the subcontractors, the craftspeople who are under the foreman, and then under the subcontractors, they also have a foreman, along with second tier subcontractors who who also have craftspeople or your tradespeople. Okay, the other roles in the construction process. Significant roles played by other entities. The majority are regulatory agencies. Your building inspector, generally city, county, items generally inspected, your concrete footings, your concrete reinforcing, wood framing, steel framing, and final compliance. These are the individuals that must be certified by the International Code Council. So they need to understand codes and ordinances. And same with your plumbing inspector. They're also from a city and county. They do the plumbing rough in, your sewer installation, and your water line installation. Now, your plumbing inspector and your building inspector, they're not the same. And neither is your electrical inspector. They're from the city, county, and state. They do the electrical rough in and the electrical finish. And you have your fire marshal. They're from the city or the state, and they inspect your fire alarm systems and your fire protection systems. You have your elevator inspector. They're from the city and state. They inspect your elevator and your conveyance systems, like your escalators. You have your safety inspector. They're from the state and federal is OSHA. They deal with the safety and compliance of the website. All right, construction management. Again, this is a review, especially if you were around when I took contract documents at Old Dominion University, CET 440. Some of this information is very much the same. So under construction management, types of contract. So you have your agency, CM. That's the manager as an agent of the owner. CM enters process early and helps owner navigate all parts of construction process, usually for a fee, usually a percentage of the project cost. And you have your CM at risk or GMP, guaranteed maximum price. All of the roles of agency CM would have a financial stake in the project. Okay, here you have your owner. Under your owner, you have your architects, and you also have your contractors, and then you have your construction manager. Now, the construction manager can go and talk to the architect and the contractors because this guy right here is the owner's representative as well. And this is the organization of the CM delivery system. Now, role CM plays on a project. That's the construction manager. Okay, you have your project manager, reports to the owner for success of project. Then you have your design manager, coordinates with owner and architect. Your construction administrator, contact person for contractors. Then your superintendent, coordinates field activities among multiple subcontractors. Then you have your field engineer, shop drawings, submittals, layout inspection and testing, payment verifications. Then you have, which are basically those are duties assigned by the construction superintendent or construction administrator. And then you have your communication. All that goes to CM. And you have your pre-construction schedule, one tool to help owner manage AE, like your architect. And these are all your numbers right here. Almost like a work breakdown structure, or we can say uh, basically items. Now this is your schedule. Now this would be on something like when your activities are going to take place, like your schematic drawings. You have your bar chart. This is what the schedule looks like. We used to have something called Shore Track. I believe Cisco or there's something else out there that most of your big contractors use. I use Microsoft Project because you can use it for one project, but you create these items based on how you put all this information, and you have your days that you're going to be doing the particular part of the schedule. Now, what is your critical path? That's generally when that's the longest path. That's all you need to know about the critical path. And how do you know that? Because all the items, they equal all the days. You do your forward pass, you may come out with the most days. And then when you do your backward pass, you should come back to zero. And the reason why I say that, because you're not going to have any slack or you're not going to have any float. Now, here's something that a lot of contractors use. It's called Procore. Procore is to manage, it's a tool to manage the job site. So you're going to have your logs, contracts, your purchase orders, and you're going to have your change issues, and of course your communications. And you can also put your specifications and plans inside of Procore. What you have to do is sign up for an account. And once you sign up for an account, because on a few projects of mine at work, I have a Procore account. I can go right into the contractor's Procore account. Now, the contractor invites me to sign up for the account so I can get the information from the contractor so I can process my estimates / proposals, and I can look at the specifications for the projects that I manage. Now, we're going to go into the traditional use of the construction manager. Of course, the construction management for the construction manager and AE are shown as consultants to the owner. Subcontracts, while generally administered by CM and generally under the contract with the owner. So you have your owner, and under your owner, you have your construction manager and your architect engineer. Also, you have your subcontractors. Then we have something called design build, single source delivery system for owner. So generally, there's going to be friction between the contractor and owner on a project, but with this design build, the friction or the conflict is mitigated because that friction is going to be between the contractor and designer. And of course, under design build, it includes design and construction services. Here you have your owner, your design build, your design consultants, and your construction contractors. So all of the process you see an organizational chart with, or all of your processes have an organizational chart. That's how the process operates. And you have to understand the flow of the process because the flow is the communication. Again, you have your owner, your design bid firm, designers and consultants, or designers and contractors, or constructors. So under your owner, because you have two of them now, so listen closely. You have one that's the AE led firm with in-house capabilities, and you also have one that's common for developers. Now, here's the AE led firm with in-house capabilities. You have your owner. Your design build firm features your designers and constructors. And then under the design bid firm, your designers, constructors, you have your design consultants and your subcontractors. Now, the common one for developers, you have your owner, your design build firm, and under your design build firm, you have your architect and subconsultants, and then you have your contractor and subcontractors. Now you also have the GC-led firm with in-house capabilities. Again, you have your owner, you have your contractor, design, build, and you have your architect, engineer, and then also under contractor, design, build, you have your subcontractors. Now your AJV form for project, you have your owner, and when we deal with JV, it's called a joint venture. So the communication is pretty different because under your owner, you go to your joint venture, and your joint venture could go to your swing out to the architect and engineer, and even to the GC, the general contractor, and then the subcontractors. So you have the joint venture, design, build, right in the middle. Then you have your EPC, engineering procurement. Of course, construction is similar to design build for industrial construction, also includes equipment, procurement, and installation. And of course, this is from New York State. I actually got this information from a class that I'm in. If you're at Alfred State College, they have two classes. They have 8023, which is construction job site administration, and 8123, which is construction project administration. Now, the difference between the two, for 8123, it's a little bit more hands-on because you actually utilize Procure. The 8023, if you want to go into construction supervision, is generally construction job site administration is for the field day-to-day operations. So under AGC, New York State, it's excellence in partnering competition. Partnering is a collaborative process where the project team, owners, contractors, designers, they work collaboratively to achieve project success by focusing together on project goals. The team seeks to satisfy, or the team seeks to safely, you want to satisfy, but you want to safely complete quality projects on or ahead of schedule and within project budgets. So a hallmark of partnering is a good common is a good common theme, or it's basically good communication, and it fosters a network of commitments made and kept, resolves issues timely and in a manner that minimizes project impact and produces high levels of trust and respect amongst the team. And then you have different competitions. Now, again, when we deal with stakeholders, when it comes to construction project administration, well, the stakeholders, of course, include owners, contractors, architects, engineers, suppliers, and regulatory bodies, all of whom directly or indirectly influence project success. Key contract types, which are your lump sum, cost plus, unit price, time and materials, and guaranteed maximum price. They define the risks, responsibilities, payments between these parties. Now, of course, your key stakeholders in construction projects, they're divided into two main categories: internal and external. Basically, your internal, they're directly involved with the project. Your external, they're impacted and they're influencing. And again, your common construction contracts, I just mentioned them. Of course, time and materials is the last one. But basically, to go over it, your internal stakeholders, your project owner and client, they provide the funding, define scope, and they initiate the project. Your contractors and general contractors, they're basically responsible for executing the construction work. Your design team, which includes architects and engineers, they design the project. Your subcontractors, they're the ones that have specialized trades like your plumbers and electricians and your mechanical, and you're hired by the general contractor. And then you have your project managers, they oversee the day-to-day operations. Then your external stakeholders impacted or influencing are your regulatory agencies. They issue permits, safety checks, and environmental clearances. And you have your local community, that's your residents and your businesses that are going to be impacted by noise or traffic, and sometimes some environmental factors as well. And you also have your financial institutions. This is where your banks provide loans or they're going to manage the investments. And again, some of the construction contracts that are common, and these contracts define a relationship and risk allocation between parties. Your lump sum or your fixed price, total fixed price for all construction work, often used when scope is well defined. Then you have your cost plus, covers actual costs incurred by the contractor plus a fee for overhead and profit. Then you have your unit price. Your prices are broken down by unit. Example, cubic yards of concrete, linear feet, tons, useful when quantities are uncertain. Then you have your guaranteed minimum, your guaranteed maximum price. Again, that's guaranteed maximum price, not minimum price. Guaranteed maximum price sets a maximum price with cost savings, often shared between owner and contractor. Then you have your time and materials, pays for hours worked and materials used, commonly used for smaller, unpredictable, and renovation projects. And then stakeholder management and contracting, risk mitigation, where you have effective management that involves identifying, analyzing, and engaging stakeholders through tools like a power interest grid. You have conflict resolution. Early engagement helps resolve conflicts between differing interests, such as a contractor's desire for speed versus community concerns over noise. And then you have your documentation. Clear contracts are essential for accountability, defining responsibilities, and ensuring project success. And what I provided you was some information that's part of construction project administration, where I'm talking about the stakeholders. Good career if you want to get onto the owner side or the contractor side of construction. And this is where you want to also get your CCM certification. But that concludes this topic on players in contracts or stakeholders in contracts. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. Now, here's where you can find me. If you're looking for some political and social content, check out my main channel, the 401 Talk Zone radio show channel right here on YouTube. Other areas that I have or other places that I put up my video content, Rumble, X formerly Twitter, and of course Truth Social. And for the QCIS channel, find me right here on YouTube. Also find me on LinkedIn and X formerly Twitter. But once again, thank you for viewing and listening to this content on stakeholders and contracts on the QCIS channel. And on this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening.